Okay, gonna test this. Trevor, can you see a PowerPoint on your screen?
Yes, I can.
That's great. Okay, well, folks, welcome to Vandal Ventures. This is going to be a webinar about the University of Idaho's freshman wilderness experience that we're going to have this summer. We might give folks a couple of more minutes just to log on here. So if you're willing to bear with that, I'll give them a minute or two and then we'll get started. Just for all of you who are here, the idea is kind of give a brief overview of what Vandal Ventures is and go over what to expect and what is expected of you. And then at the end here, we will have a option for questions in the Q&A. So I'll make sure that the chat is open, and Trevor might be fielding questions through the entire time. So if you have questions, please feel free to use the chat function there. And we'll make sure that we answer all of your questions to the best of our ability. See, I guess without further ado, we'll start this up. So again, welcome to Vandal Ventures. This is very similar to the UI Bound webinar or PowerPoint that you might have seen if you've been going through the university's UI Bound. But I did add a couple of things just to go a little bit more in depth for you. So Vandal Ventures, let's see if we'll get this to work. Yes, perfect. Is our freshman orientation program, like I was talking about. It doesn't replace orientation that is required of everyone at the beginning of August, but it is something that's kind of you can do before you come here onto campus. The idea is that you spend 5 days immersed in the wilderness, either going rafting or backpacking with other fellow future vandals, and have a really awesome experience where you're with those folks. And we have 2 leaders or more that are going to be with you who have also been through the Vandal experience. And so they'll be able to answer any questions that you have about what it's like to live in Moscow, what it's like to go to classes, work, study, social balance while you're on campus, what the dorms are like, what the food in the hub is like, anything like that. They'll be able to give you kind of that inside perspective while you're enjoying some really incredible terrain that we have. So we have our rafting that's going to be on the Lower Salmon, and then we have backpacking, which is going to be up in North Idaho. And I'll go into those 2 here. So the first one that we're going to have is rafting on the Lower Salmon. That's going to be July 12th through the 16th this year. So coming in early on July 12th, spending 5 days, and then coming back out later on the 16th. Cost for that is $550. Registration does close on June 29th. We do have a maximum of 12 spots. So if you are interested, make sure to sign up. And it's just absolutely world-class whitewater rafting here in Idaho, which is pretty awesome. It's definitely something, if you don't go on this experience, we do strongly recommend that you experience rafting on the Lower Salmon at least once while you're here in Moscow, Idaho. We also have backpacking in the MALLARD-LARINS Pioneer area, which is going to be north of Moscow, enjoying some really rugged, really wilderness-based experience north of us, about 5 hours or so. Cost for that is $450. Registration closes on July 6th, and we have a maximum of 6 spots. And again, that's going to be July 18th through the 22nd. For both of those, they are butted up against UI Bound. So if you go on the rafting trip and you come back here, the next day is an in-person UI Bound here on campus in Moscow. And then July 18th through the 22nd is the day after that UI Bound. That's going to be on July 17th. So if that's something that you're want to experience on campus on July 17th, we've made it so that you can come here for that experience also, and then either come right off of your trip or start your trip right after that. And so what to expect? Oh no, my tiny picture's too tiny. That's too bad. There's a little Volkswagen Beetle there. So what to expect day one, you're going to arrive your first morning with all of your gear. We'll do introductions with everyone that's going to be in your group and introduce you to the leaders that are going to be on your trip. Then we'll do a food pack and a gear pack. And then we don't want to spend too much time on campus. The idea is to get out into the woods as quick as possible. So we'll go to either the launch or the trailhead on day one and actually start getting going. So either launching on the river if possible, and then starting to hike a little bit also. Definitely it depends a little bit on time constraints, but we want to make sure that we're actually getting out there on day one and getting to the good stuff. Day 2, 3, and 4, you're actually out there doing the things. So you're either rafting or you're backpacking. So you're going to be traveling and doing all of the camp life. So you wake up, take down camp, drink some coffee or some tea and have breakfast, get onto the water or start hiking. And then we also have specific programming that we have throughout the entire experience to help you succeed here at the University of Idaho. Again, going over everything with time management, making sure that you know what to expect when you're at the university, working on communication skills, leadership skills, those kinds of things. And again, answering any questions that you might have about being a Vandal. And hopefully through those 5 days, through all of that programming, you feel more comfortable and set up for success for your first day of classes. Then day 5, after 3 full days out in the field, we get to the takeout or the trailhead, come back here to Moscow, unpack all of our gear, and then ultimately say goodbye for the time being. Hopefully you've made some more friends, and those are people that you can continue to connect with during your time here. Oh, there we go, the big picture. That's awesome. Okay, so I'll move this over a little bit. So question people might be asking is, why am I going to pay for this experience? Why can't I just arrive on campus? And you absolutely can do so successfully. However, these types of programs have been going on for decades, and there's actually been a surprising amount of research that has been done on them. So the research says that you are much more likely to have a GPA, and probably more importantly, you're much more likely to stay in school. So folks who go through these wilderness orientation programs are more likely going to make those connections. They're going to make them more successful and ultimately be able to graduate. Folks who do go on these trips also tend to be more involved, kind of being more of that networking when it comes to different clubs, experiences here on campus, and kind of just make those connections, again, building that social support system. And then probably one of the more interesting things is actually has lifelong rewards. They've been talking to folks who've gone on these trips decades ago, and this is one of those highlighted experience over those full 4 years or more or less that they've had at their university. This is one of the highlights that they keep coming back to, going like, that was the experience that I got to start my adventure on, which is pretty rad. My all-time favorite statistic, though, is that folks who go on these programs tend to have more friends coming in. The average person who goes to college or university enters the program with 2 friends. The average person who's gone on one of these programs starts the first day of classes with 12 friends, which I think is awesome. It's one of those kind of what we call the lunchroom effect, where that first day where you're just not sure, going like, hey, who do I sit with at lunch? You've already made those social connections with people that you had on this experience, which I think is pretty rad. Okay, so I'm gonna move this again. So the question is, you're convinced you wanna go, how do you sign up? Pretty easy, go to the University of Idaho's website, so uidaho.edu/Vandal Ventures, and all of that information is gonna be right on our website. We have our essential eligibility criteria. So that's all the information of making sure that you are qualified to go on a trip. If you have any questions about those, please let me know. I'm more than willing to walk through what those are. And then we have our participant responsibility code, and those are kind of the agreements that we have with each other when we're on the trip, how to act to each other. And then we have the equipment lists that are over there. There are going to be 2 separate ones, one for rafting and one for backpacking, that are specific to the needs of those trips. And then we have a very lengthy, frequently asked questions So hopefully you are able to go through those and be able to answer any questions that you have there. Again, if there isn't anything on there that gives you the answer, or this webinar doesn't give you the answer that you need, please let us know, and I'm more than willing to talk with you. And then to start the registration process, if you go over on this left-hand side and you click either rafting trip or backpacking trip, it'll come up with an icon to start the registration process. And again, you can't pay for the registration at that moment when you register, because we want to make sure that this is right for you. So that's how you start the kind of the conversation with us, making sure that this is something that's appropriate for you, and that ultimately will be successful for you. That was short and sweet. Ultimately, we want to make sure that this is the right experience for you. So please, I'm going to see if I can open up this Q&A here and see if folks have any questions. I do know that there are probably some questions when it comes to the coronavirus and what we're doing about that. And ultimately, know that we are working on the situation to the best of our abilities. As you probably know, there are a lot of things that have been changing quite frequently. And so I will be more than willing to answer any questions that you have right now, but we're going to be having different protocols with these kinds of trips. Ultimately, your safety and our leaders' safety is our utmost concern. And if we don't feel comfortable being able to lead any of these trips, know that we're going to cancel them. When it comes to registration, if we do have to cancel a trip for any reason, obviously you get a full refund. If you don't feel comfortable either going on the trip, things change as they go, let me know, and we can make sure that we have refunds for you. Chat, here we go. Oh, and Trevor's been asking questions, great. So yeah, if folks have any questions, please let me know. Or Trevor, if you have anything to add, Trevor's the black box that's kind of down there. He is our outdoor program director. Oh, and we've got a raised hand. Let me see if I can click on that. If you can put your question into the chat, that might be the easiest way for us to see what your question is. Can you use scholarship money to pay for one of the trips? So, sort of. So there are two ways to pay for trips. You can either pay with credit or debit card, or you can choose to put it onto your student account. And ultimately with student accounts, those scholarship monies kind of work in there. If you are interested or need scholarship or monetary assistance, that is something that we can help with. We have very limited availability with that. Talk with us and we can see what we can do for you. Surprised to see so few spots available. Am I understanding that right? Yes, you are. The reason why we want to do that is have a really awesome, small, I guess, intimate experience with folks. We're not going to be one of those trips where we have 30 or 40 folks. That's just a lot of people, and you're not going to be able to make those one-on-one connections. So that's specifically what these trips are for, is small groups going out there and making really awesome, deep connections with other fellow Vandals. Does anyone else have any questions? And Trevor, again, feel free to chime in if you have anything to add. That was short and furious.
No, the only thing I would maybe add to that last question is sometimes we're also limited for the amount of participants we can take on a program, depending on the location. So for the numbers that you're seeing, those are the spots available at this time. So yeah, and the wilderness experience is best experienced in small groups.
Very true. Yeah, to echo kind of what, is anyone interested in any particular trip or have any particular questions of maybe what the differences are between rafting or backpacking or unsure of what trip might be right for you? Bueller? Bueller? Start and stop at campus. That would be before dorms are available. Yes, you are correct. So we would be coming from campus and then we'd be arriving back on campus. And this is before dorms are available. So you would have to make sure that you do have some sort of housing probably the night before and the night after here on Moscow. There are lots of awesome availabilities for motels and hotels in the greater Moscow area. And those are kind of listed in the frequently asked questions also. We did want to make sure that you weren't maybe necessarily going back and forth from Moscow all the time. So that is why we lined it up with a UI bound. If you were planning on coming on campus for the UI bound, getting all of your classes and such together, just making sure that you only have to come once instead of having to go back and forth from where you might be. Anyone else? These are great questions. If not, Trevor, anything to add?
I don't think so. I just, I'm also learning to use this function here. So I actually tried to respond to the entire group for that last question, but I think I just responded to the one person. So I'll share. We do have places to stow vehicles while you are on campus on a trip at no cost during these dates. So you wouldn't have to worry about a place to put a car that's secure and safe and wouldn't cost you anything.
Yeah, same with your gear. If you are coming in with extra gear that you might have, we definitely have the ability to store that during your 5 days, especially if you want like some clean pants or a shirt to change into afterwards. We totally understand that. Do the frequently asked question list was included, like travel from campus to the event start? Yes, so it should be included in the frequently asked questions, but obviously I'll answer right now. So the price does include everything from when you get on campus to when we come back to campus from the trip. So travel, food, equipment rental, besides what's on the equipment sheet there, all of that is going to be included in that price that's there. Are there similar trips like this for upperclassmen? Sort of, yes. They're not specifically for freshmen, but the outdoor program does have trips that run in the semesters. We don't have any that are available for this summer, but traditionally we will have 1 or 2 summer trips that are available. If you are interested in a trip like this, check out our fall offerings, which will be coming out probably in the next month or so here. We do have really awesome raft trips, backpacking trips. They're just not going to be those larger 5-day trips that like this trip specifically for freshmen. Specifically, reason why we do that is because this one is so much specific on incoming students and answering all your questions. As an upperclassman, you probably don't have as many questions about what life is like here in Moscow, having been on campus before.
I've got a question for you, Sandra. What if they're a transfer student, but this is their first year here at Idaho?
Yeah, absolutely. At the moment, this is not open for you. If you are a transfer student, specifically, this is meant for incoming freshmen who've never had that university or college experience before. And so a lot of that's going to be kind of focused on that. Folks that have just exited out of high school or have taken a year or 2 off between the gap years and such, this is meant specifically for them. If you do think you have a interesting circumstance where you're like, I am definitely a freshman and I don't know anything that's happening, feel free to reach out with us and we can see if this is the correct trip for you. We are definitely more than able to be flexible, but generally this is definitely definitely meant for the first year experience. Any other questions? Keep them coming. These are great. Especially if there are any parents out there, if parents have any questions. That over. Anything else? Well, Trevor, if you have any final words of wisdom.
Nope, I would say Sandra's contact information is right there on the screen. Yeah, hopefully we've done a good job answering everybody's questions, but please reach out if you have any more in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And feel free to call also. My number is 208-885-6170. If you don't feel like email is definitely one of the better ways to get a hold of me. And then feel free, again, if you haven't already, to scroll through our frequently asked questions and take a look on the website. And hopefully that kind of gets your interest up. And if you do have questions, you're just not sure about registering, please, again, just get a hold of us. Let us know if you have any questions, and we will definitely answer them for you. Well, on that note, thank you for taking some time listening to this webinar, and I hope to see you all soon on one of our trips. Oh, great. Thank you.